welcome back to my channel. Today, that's good, caramel macchiato. Today, I'm going to be filming a get ready with me. Okay, so I know some people have a pet peeve of like people that do makeup videos with their hair down, so I'm going to whip my hair up, but first I want to show you guys what I used for my hair. Lange sent me some products. Lange, love. They sent me a bunch of hair care products. Check it out on my Instagram story. I'll also be posting some things with them. But they sent me this Lange. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. Can we take a minute? This is the Lange The Gloss Blush Titanium Straightener, and it's fantastic. I love it so much. So I used that today, and I literally straightened my hair in under 5 minutes because it's got such wide plaits that it was so easy to straighten. And you can see my hair is growing so long. Okay, we're gonna start with this makeup tutorial right now. I can't stand the taste of Carmex. It tastes so bad. Now let's actually start this get ready with me, and I'm gonna be telling a story with my get ready with me, and this is the worst babysitting experience I've ever had in my entire life. Story time while we get ready. First of all, I gotta figure out what the heck I'm doing. Let's pull my hair up. I'm just using a scrunchie to pull my hair up so I can get ready. Flashback to like 2 years ago. I was babysitting for a family friend. Well, not really a family friend. I used to be a lifeguard, and this family would come to the pool that I worked at, and they had the cutest kids ever. So I was like, oh my god, let me babysit for y'all. They were like, okay, great. I just knocked my earring on the floor. Yeah. They were like, we really need a babysitter. Like, we would love if you could babysit our kids. Poppy and what's a guy's name that starts with H? And Hudson. Poppy and Hudson, okay? And I was like, of course, like, I would love to. Poppy was like 6 years old. Hudson was like 2. It was perfect. So I had babysat for them a few times, and it went fine. It was a little spooky because their house is like beside a graveyard. Remember that. That's an important part of the story. Their house is in front of a graveyard, but I was like, whatever. I'm going to do it. So I babysat for them like 2 times. It went great. The 3rd time they called me, they were like, we need you to babysit. The mom said this. She was like, I'm going out, but the dad will be home like halfway through, but he's leaving. So he's coming home to grab something, and he's going to go back out because he was at work and she was going out with her friends. I was like, sure, that sounds like so much fun and money. So I did it. The kids were great. They really didn't do like anything wrong. I don't ever remember having to get onto those kids. They were just like angel kids. So I'm babysitting for the mother, Alicia, fake name, that's not her real name. I'm babysitting for Alicia, and they have a dog, and the dog's name is Barry. Real life, okay? I don't think the dog would mind me using his name. The dog's name is Barry. That's such a crazy name for a boy dog. Like, it's like a human name. Like, really, I don't understand people that name their dog human names, but we're gonna skip past that detail. His name is Barry, and we're babysitting, and it's late. It's probably like 9 o'clock at night, and I got there at like 5 o'clock. So it's late. I'm getting the kids in the bed, and the dad texts me, and he was like, I'm on the way home. You can let Barry out, okay? So I let Barry outside to pee, come back in, and right when he gets home, the kids that were in the bed wake up. So I'm holding a 2-year-old, Hudson, and he is screaming, crying, okay, because he wants his dad. He hurt his dad. So I'm in the den. I'm holding Hudson. What was her name? Poppy? That's the name I'm making up for her. Poppy comes down from her room, and so now I have 2 kids that Poppy's screaming for her dad, hold me, play with me, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, honey, I just gotta come in, and I'm leaving. Like, he came in to wash his hands from work and get ready, and he was leaving to go meet Alicia, the mom. So, I digress. So, Hudson is screaming in my ear. So I cannot really hear anything. This is what I hear. you can let Barry in like 10 minutes. So he leaves. I'm not paying attention because I'm taking Hudson back to his bed. I finally get him back down to sleep. It had been like 20 minutes at this time. The dad's gone. Poppy's in her bed. And I'm like, well, let me let Barry inside the house. I go outside. I open the backyard door. And I go, Barry, calling this dog's name. And nothing happens, okay? So I'm like, this little dog, he's just messing around. Like, he's coming in. He's just outside peeing. I can't see him. They have a very small backyard, so I could see the whole backyard, and immediately my heart was racing. The dog got out, okay? So now at this point, it's like maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. The dog is out, and the kids are peacefully sleeping upstairs. So my heart starts racing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the worst babysitter ever. I didn't let the dog in when he told me to. I was late letting him in, and now the dog has gotten away because I suck, okay? Well, I don't know what to do. I can't leave the house. I knew I could hear barking down near the cemetery. And I was like, oh my God, Barry's down there. I have got to go, okay? So I run out onto the front porch, and I start screaming, Barry, Barry, Barry. I'm screaming it. I'm sure like all the neighbors around her could hear. Around that house could hear me screaming for Barry, but Barry was nowhere to be found. So I'm panicking. Well, I'm standing out there screaming so loud for that dog that who wakes up? The kids. The kids wake up, okay? And when the kids wake up and they hear me screaming for Barry, they sleep on the top floor, okay? There's 2 floors. They sleep on the top floor. I see little Poppy's bedroom window open, and I can see her standing from the top of the window going, crying. She knew what was going on. Barry! Screaming it into the night, okay? Not too long after that, I see little Hudson's head pop up. Little baby Hudson. Barry! Screaming it, okay? So the kids are now awake, okay? So now I don't know what to do. So I try to call the dad. He doesn't answer. I try to call the mom. She doesn't answer. So I call them at least 3 or 4 times each. I don't know why they didn't panic, because if your babysitter calls both of you 3 or 4 times each, there's probably an emergency and you should probably answer the phone. But they didn't. No, they didn't answer the phone. So what do? Call good old Daddy-O. Called him because my house is only like 10 minutes away from where I was babysitting. It was 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, Dad, I let the dog out. I'm crying. I'm screaming, crying. Ah! My life's unfortunate. I'm like, Dad, I let the dog out. And he's like, what do you mean you let the dog out? I was like, I let the dog out, and well, the dad let the dog out, told me to let it back in, and I went to, and it's gone. But I was late letting the dog back in. So he got out, and it's my fault. My dad's like, well, don't panic. I was like, I'm going to leave the house and go find the dog. Little me, like, I wasn't even thinking. I was like 15 or 16. So he was like, no, are you freaking stupid? You cannot leave the house with those little kids in it. You have got to stay there. Call the parents, let them know what's going on, and they'll look for the dog when they get home. And I was like crying. I was like, this is the worst experience of my life. But he said, I was like, no, Dad, you have to come down here and look for this dog. And he was like, are you kidding me? I was like, no, not kidding. Wish I was. He was like, okay, I'm coming down. So the kids are awake now, screaming, crying, both of them. And my dad is there. My dad is at the house. And he goes, where do you think the dog is? I was like, he couldn't have gotten far. He has to be down near the cemetery. Dun dun. Okay, so he's like, the cemetery. I was like, yeah, I think he's in the cemetery. So my dad goes off down into the cemetery with a flashlight, screaming, Barry, Barry. Everybody in that house is screaming, Barry, 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 out the window. And I'm panicking. It's a full-on panic right now, because if I can't find that dog, I know Poppy loves that dog so much. Like, my life will be over, and it all will be my fault, and they will hate me forever. And all these thoughts are going through my head, okay? So the dad doesn't answer. Finally, I give my dad his number. and he picks up on like the third call. So he didn't answer the first two, picks up on the third, and he was like, hey, you don't know me, I'm Olivia's dad, but she's calling me crying saying your dog got out. And he was like, oh, okay. He's like, my wife, I got a burp. My wife, Alicia, will be home soon and we can look for the dog. It's not a big deal, okay? So I'm panicking, okay? The dog's gotten out. It's my fault. They hate me. Like, they're not going to pay me. I'm going to lose this babysitting job that pays me so well. Well, they get home. I'm sitting at the kitchen table with my head in my hands. The kids are awake. They will not go to sleep. And I didn't even try to bother putting them asleep because I was too worried about the situation at hand. So he comes home and we're standing out. And I'm just sitting at the kitchen table with my head in my hands. But my dad said Hudson, little Hudson, was still standing at the window with the window raised up, screaming, Barry, crying. It's now 11:30 at night. And the kids were supposed to be in bed by like 8, okay? So it's 11 o'clock at night, and he comes in, and I'm sitting with my head in my hands at the kitchen table, and he was like, well, did you let him out of the crate? And I was like, what? He was like, did you let the dog out of the crate? I said, what are you talking about? So we just walk up the steps. It's like a scene in a freaking movie. I got tears running down my face. My dad's looking at me like, what's going on? And Barry is in his crate upstairs, shaking because he has not been able to pee for 5 hours now. And this has been a real big problem, okay? So he looks at me and he looks back at my dad, and then he looks at me and he looks at my dad, and he just laughs. He's laughing, okay? I'm mortified. I'm absolutely crying. I'm like, how did this happen? Like, magic dog. It turns out that he meant he put Barry back in his crate. He already let Barry in, but he put him in his crate upstairs. And I heard let Barry in. He said let Barry out. Okay, well, freaking Barry. He didn't bark. He didn't do anything. He heard us screaming his name for 3 hours and didn't even make a noise. If Barry would have been like, Ruff, Ruff, we would have known Barry was in the house. But no, freaking Barry wanted me to lose that babysitting gig, and I lost it. They never called me back after that. I went home. I was mortified. My dad thought it was the funniest thing ever, which it was funny. If it was like anybody else, I would have died laughing. But for me, I was so mortified. I was like, that's the worst thing that has ever happened to me babysitting wise. My heart just sank into my butt. Barry didn't get lost in the first place, so they never called me back, and that was that. But that's not the end of my babysitting chronicles, okay? This is with another family, and this is probably why I don't really babysit much anymore, because, So I used to babysit for this family that lived in this really, really nice house, okay? It was about $2 million. It was so nice. I remember, like, the first night I was there, I was taking videos of the kitchen, videos of the den, because it was so immaculate and beautiful. I was like, oh my God, I love this house. Well, that house is haunted, okay? And I believe that that house is haunted because I know it's haunted. It was probably like, they never really stayed out late, that family didn't, but they paid me like $30 an hour for watching their children. So every time they called, I would call out of work to go babysit for those kids because I knew that I was going to get paid big bank. Well, the first time I went over there, things started happening that was like so weird. Like, we would hear noises from the attic. We would just find like all kinds of crazy stuff laying around that we didn't lay. Like in the kitchen, we found like the TV remote in the kitchen, but nobody had turned on the TV and the TV remote was on the table. And so I would ask the kids, I just thought they were messing with me. I was like, Sabrina, did you put the remote on the kitchen table? She was like, no, Miss Olivia, I've been upstairs playing. Okay, that's fine. I would ask the little boy, Jack, did you put this remote on the table? No. And he'd been upstairs with Sabrina playing, so I knew he hadn't. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm just going crazy. Maybe it was there the whole time, but why would it be on the kitchen table? I still don't know. So that started happening, but I just thought that like maybe they were just messing with me and it wasn't a big deal. So one night I was babysitting for them because I love babysitting for them because money. So I was babysitting for them, and the mom texted me and she was like, hey, we'll be home in about 2 or 3 hours. Is everything okay? Yes, everything's fine. So I text her back. I was like, yeah, that's fine. The kids are asleep. I'm just watching Netflix. She was like, okay, sounds good. They normally didn't stay out late, but tonight they decided to stay out late because it was New Year's. So I decided to, normally I don't babysit on New Year's, but I knew that if they were gone for like 4 or 5 hours, I'd be making over $100. So I was like, I'm gonna babysit. I don't care what time of year it is. So I babysat for them, and she texted me. She was like, we'll be home in a couple hours. You good? Yeah. So I'm sitting on the couch and I'm watching my show. Ugh, Grey's Anatomy. Duh. If you like Grey's Anatomy, give it a thumbs up. Oh, I'm sitting on the couch watching Grey's Anatomy. Okay. Georgia Malley had just died. Sitting on the couch, and I am, what the heck? Can't find anything I need. And all of a sudden, I hear the doorbell. And I'm like, that's weird, because it's really late at night. Nobody is out. I don't know who would be ringing the doorbell. But did I answer it? No, because I did not want an intruder to break into the house and kill me and those kids. And I didn't know if somebody needed help. So I look out onto the front porch. No one is there. I look out onto the back porch. No one is there. Did you hear that doorbell? And she was like, no. Okay. So I'm like, all right, well, I don't know. That's just kind of weird. So I went downstairs, and we had pizza that night. So I'm just eating pizza, sitting there, and I hear that doorbell again. And I'm like, what is going on? I said, this doorbell keeps ringing like somebody's out there. And she was like, nobody's out there. Let me look. She goes to the back. She was like, nobody's out there, Miss Olivia, nobody. I was like, okay, maybe I'm just going crazy. And we sit back down at the table, and the doorbell rings, and she hears it this time. She's like, oh, that's the front door. That's our doorbell. We only have a doorbell on the front door, but she said that they had like a thing, like a ring doorbell on the front and the back. So like the doorbell makes 2 different noises based on if it's the front door or the back. I know, frou-frou. So nice. So she was like, no, that's the front door. We go look, and no one is there. Are your friends outside playing right now? And she was like, no, it's so late, Miss Olivia. I was like, I know, but I'm just making sure we're not getting pranked by your friends. Your friends really wouldn't be pranking like that. But her brother, he's like 10 or 11, so I'm thinking maybe his friends are out there. And I call him down. It was so late, but those kids, like, I knew something was going on, and those kids weren't like asleep. They were just upstairs because their mama didn't have a bedtime for them, which normally, side note, you would think those kids would be like absolute demons, but they were so good. Like, I never had a problem out of those kids. So I call him downstairs, and I'm like, are your friends? Oh my God, I keep saying his name. I call him downstairs, and I'm like, hey, are your friends outside playing? And he's like, no, I don't think so. I was like, well, I think your friends are pranking us, bud. And he was like, why? I said, because the doorbell keeps ringing. And we heard it ring. And me and Liz were like, see? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I still don't know to this day if he was pranking me or not, because he could not hear it whatsoever. And so I was like, maybe this kid's deaf. So nothing happened. We just went into the den, me and the little girl, and we're sitting there, and the doorbell rings again. And I'm like, we have got to catch whoever's at this doorbell. Like, somebody is pranking us. I was getting so mad because even if those kids were sleeping, like, it would have woke those kids up. So I stood in like the foyer. If you don't know what a foyer is, like the little space in front of the front door. I stood in there, and I waited and waited, and I heard the doorbell ring, and I jerk open the door, you guys, and no one is there. And there is no, like, that's the doorbell for the front door. And both those kids said, like, the doorbell, this loudest is the front door, and it makes a certain noise. Like, I knew it had to be that door. Because the back door was only like a little ding-ding. The front door was like ding-ding-ding-ding. It was like a different noise. That was a beautiful rendition of the doorbells, thanks. So I knew something was going on. I jerk open that door, and no one is there, and I was spooked magooked. I was so, like, freaked out by this. And was like, who is it? And I said, no one. And so I looked to the right, looked to the left, because I'm thinking like maybe there was maybe they just jumped into the bushes. It's just little kids. To the right and left, there are no bushes. So like it's just a patio, like a walkway, and no one was there. Spook. So it only happened like one more time after that, and then like the house was silent. And so I didn't know what it was, and I thought that something was going on, but maybe it was just a doorbell problem. But still, it spooked me out. That was just one of the stories from that house. I have not gone back to that house since then, because of something that happened like maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that. So I was like really hesitant to babysit for those kids, because that house just freaked me out. It was so big, and like so like the floors creak and no one was walking. It was just really scary. And so I was like, oh my god, I cannot babysit for these kids again. Like, this is crazy. I don't care how much money I'm making. Like, something is going on in the house. I don't want to be there late at night. And when I told the parents what had gone on, they were like puzzled. Like, that had never happened to them. So I told them that they might need to check their doorbell, because it kept just like ringing. I didn't know if it was a problem like within the doorbell, not somebody pressing it. And they couldn't find anything wrong with it. So anyways, I come back 2 or 3 weeks later. They asked me to babysit again. They were going to like a party, and I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, yeah, I'll be there. I get there, I'm babysitting, everything's fine. The kids are asleep now. It's like 10 o'clock at night. They went to bed pretty late, but like I said, they didn't have a bedtime, so it wasn't like a huge deal. And I'm sitting in the kitchen. I'm just on my phone. Like I said, the kids were asleep, so not a big deal. On my phone. And they had like this vase on the, like the front, not the front, like they had a kitchen table and then like an island. Okay, there was a vase on the kitchen table. I was sitting at the island. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, that vase goes, I don't want to be dramatic. It didn't fly off the table, okay? It flipped and rolled and crashed onto the floor and completely broke. So again, I'm freaking out. I was like, what am I going to do about this freaking vase? And so it falls onto the floor, crashes. So the kids don't even hear it, don't wake up. And I'm still freaked out by this, because I knew what had happened previously. So I'm like, oh my god, this house is haunted. Ah, we've got to tone this color down. This is like way too much for me. I'm panicking. Much better. Okay, so the vase goes flying off the table, and the kids don't wake up. And yeah, and my door is creaking. Did y'all hear that? So yeah, I mean, after that kind of happened, I was just kind of done babysitting for them. And like I said, didn't care how much money I made. I told myself I would never go back. And they asked me to babysit again for them like last week, and I told them, sorry, I can't do it. Every time they've asked me since then, I was like, I can't really babysit anymore because I'm in school. Well, they knew I was going to be off on break, so they asked me to babysit. And I flat out told them, like, no, I can't. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little get ready with me story time. 1 of the spooky mansion, and 2 how I suck at being a babysitter. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next video.